Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. The month is August. Next up, September, and then, of course, October. That's the heart of the postseason in Major League Baseball. We are nearing the home stretch of a long marathon that is 162 games in an MLB regular season. So let's update the postseason picture in both leagues. We start with the AL. Here's the numbers right now. In the expanded postseason, seeds 1 through 6. The Orioles and the Yankees. The O's a slight advantage despite having the same record as the Yanks based on the tiebreaker for that American League East divisional top spot. So the Orioles have the best record in the AL technically and in the American League East. A half game in front of the Guardians, who have a substantial lead in the American League Central. The Astros and the Mariners continue to flip-flop for the top spot in the AL West. The Astros have a half-game lead at this moment. The three wildcard teams currently DRS in the American League, the Yankees, Twins, Royals. That is the picture as of right now.
Yes, and we're also taking a look at, let's go over the overall standings in the American League, right? Just to take a look at how these teams' records and how they line up. It's no surprise, once again, two best teams in the American League, just by record-wise, Ben. That's the Orioles and the Yankees. They're going to come down the stretch, jockey for position, a major advantage to the team that's going to win the AL East. But outside of that, the one team, again, when we've sent out tweets here on the SportsGrid Network, which clearly says me, look, the Orioles and the Yankees, two best teams in the American League, bar none. And I think it's holding up now because you're looking at the Guardians, and there's no shame in the Guardians game. Just a few days ago, they were looking at the best record overall in Major League Baseball, but now losers of 5 straight games. I understand the ebbs and flows of the Major League Baseball schedule. The Phillies were going through it, and it looks like they're starting to pull themselves out. The Guardians are right in the middle of it with a 5-game loss. This is why I look towards the late games in the season and also, obviously, first couple weeks of October, trying to advance in the playoffs. I just don't know if the Guardians have enough firepower here from a pitching perspective and a hitting perspective to get over the hump. And what I mean by the hump is taking down the Orioles and the Yankees, who are stacked from a frontline starting staff, hopefully if they're healthy, from a bullpen perspective, and the 1 through 9 lineup each and every day. Twins, Royals, Red Sox, Astros, all good stories. We'll talk about them making the playoffs. But for my money, once again, in the American League, it's the Orioles and the Yankees, and it's everybody else. And the Guardians making me look technically smart about that right now, losing 5 straight games.
DRS, everybody in the bigs has played 113 games, which means we have less than 50 for all 30 clubs around MLB. Some teams like the Cubbies and the Dodgers have played 117, so they're even closer to 162. The reason I bring that up is because we can start to categorize these games as the home stretch. As for the American League East, the Yankees right now technically tied record-wise at 68 and 47 alongside Baltimore. In the pinstripes, a minus 175 odds-on favorite to win the AL East on the FanDuel Sportsbook. But the O's have the tiebreaker. They've taken 6 of the 10 games against the Yanks so far this year. The two teams will meet up in the Bronx in the second-to-last series of this season. How decisive could that be down the final week of the regular season? That remains to be seen. The Guardians on a slide. They've dropped 5 in a row. Now only a 3.5-game lead in the American League Central, but when you look at the odds, still minus 170. And again, back and forth they go atop the American League West. Does somebody want to take a stronghold of this division? Does not seem to be the case. The Astros minus 185 as the division favorites in front of Seattle. Houston holds a half-game lead now over the Mariners. Now, here's the wild card watch around the American League. Whoever doesn't win the American League East between the O's and the Bombers, that team is more than likely going to be the top American League wild card team. Currently, it's the Yanks. The Twins have pretty much been in that second spot of 3 in the AL wild card chase for a good majority of this season. Then you have the Royals and the Red Sox. KC avoids the sweep at home yesterday thanks to Bobby Witt Jr. So the Royals a 1.5 game advantage over Boston for the third and final American League wild card position.
Yeah, not as crazy as the National League, certainly that we'll get to. But if you're looking at the Yankees,
Right.
Twins, and Royals, comfortable in that spot along with the Red Sox. And the Red Sox are a game and a half out of that spot, but you can clearly see them a game and a half with, August and September to go. You can make up those numbers. You start to see the Seattle Mariners down there at 4.5 games. Well, you better just take that out of the equation. You better win that division or else you're not getting into the playoffs. So it seems like technically for me, it is a 4-game race here in this with the Yankees/Orioles. Then you have the Twins, Royals, and then the Red Sox here just outside of it. The Tampa Bay Rays 5.5 back. I think that's too long. Obviously, the Detroit Tigers 8.5 games back. They're not making it into it. And again, you could talk about the Rangers, where I think they're now out of the divisional race as they're playing themselves out of it, as opposed to making in a wild card run. So it seems to me like that cutoff is going to be at the Red Sox, and those teams will be jockeying for position the rest of the way. I just don't see it any other way. Like again, with the Rays 5.5 games back. Could they get hot? Yes, but they basically told their team at the deadline, look, we're not really going to fortify this lineup and make a big run here.
Which would be fascinating in the American League Central to see 3 of the 5 teams, the Guardians as the champs, the Twins, and the Royals, earn playoff spots. KC -164 to make the postseason in the American League. Boston even money +100. And I think Donnie's point there was very sound on Seattle. The Mariners +112 to see the American League playoffs, +145 to win the American League West. They're only a half game behind Houston in that component. The M's DRS, to your point, 4.5 games out of a wild card spot. So whether it's the Astros or the Mariners, those 2 clubs' best chances of seeing the American League postseason just taking care of business in the division.
Yeah, you better do that. And that's what you have to focus on, which sometimes takes, how many times you take a look and say, hey, let's just scoreboard watch. You don't really have to do that. You're scoreboard watching basically one team here for the Mariners, just worrying about what the Houston Astros are doing. Sure, winning on the field, and can they overcome and say, you know what? The Astros were great down the stretch. We were too. We lost out on the division, but made the wild card. Yes, there's still an opportunity, but the most feasible way to get in is just to beat the team that's just in front of you at this point right now. So that singular focus for the Mariners, Ben, might be able to help them down the stretch because you're not watching 6 teams you have to climb over with 3.5 games between you. You're just worried about one team here. And also, when you win the division, to the victors go the spoils here, where you actually get home field advantage in round number 1.
Yeah, it's a huge point, DRS, and also start to pay attention to strength of schedule around Major League Baseball. Kansas City, second hardest schedule remaining. Boston, 13th most difficult schedule, much more middle of the pack. Unfortunately for KC, no more games remaining against the Chicago White Sox in the division. Now to the NL, up next. Looking at the National League postseason picture, but a breaking news update from the AL. The Chicago White Sox have reportedly made a move. According to Underdog MLB, the Chicago White Sox have fired their manager, Pedro Grifol, who has been the manager there for 2 years. What did I say it wrong? Is it Grifol?
No. I'm just like the whole scenario is just fantastic at this. I mean, just doing this guy. Yeah. By the way, the only objective here, Ben, for us with the White Sox firing Grifol is that you got to have to go back to Ozzie Guillen. No, is that it's got to be 100%. Ozzie Guillen goes right back into there. It has to be that way.
I mean, it really does have to be. He's on the coverage. I know he works for the White Sox in terms of their television coverage, and I saw a great clip of him calling in the other night because he wasn't in studio when Grifol finally led the White Sox to a victory to snap the historic 21-game losing skid. But why do it the day after Chicago snapped the skid? Yeah, they lost the rubber match yesterday in Oakland. Was that the final nail in the coffin? Oh, we're back to 61 losses, below 500. What's the point?
They said, look, man, you blew that 2-0 lead. We just can't watch anymore. But I do understand what the concept was here. You're not like, let's just say he did lose 22 and they fired him. What new manager is coming in like, hey, by the way, hit the ground running. Let's see how much he can extend this historic losing streak. So it sort of made sense where it's like, okay, we can't put an interim manager in place during this lengthy, long streak. Hopefully he'll break this sooner than later. We'll can him the minute he breaks it. And then the new manager comes in and basically has a clean slate at this point, not looking over his shoulder with that massive losing streak, but firing the manager as if that was his fault with that travesty of a team. But again, sometimes the players can't go. The manager always can go, and that's what happened here in Chicago.
I mean, it's really the ownership looking at you, Mr. Reinsdorf, 89 and 190. That's the record in about a year and a half, or a little bit more than a year and a half, for Pedro Grifol in Chicago. 61 and 101 a year ago, 28 and 89 currently for the White Sox. That's an overall win percentage of .319. Listen, he might be the scapegoat. He might be the figurehead. He has now been fired. The White Sox officially releasing that information as well, that Pedro Grifol has been fired as the manager on the South Side. Oh, boy. Anyway, as we go around the National League, here is what the playoff picture looks like at this moment, and we have seen some changes. Not in the divisional frontrunners, the Phillies, the Dodgers, or the Brewers in the National League Central, but the National League wild card that around the All-Star break was highly competitive. We had 6 teams really separated by about 2.5 games. Well, the teams out of the National League West cannot seem to lose. The Arizona Diamondbacks, 12 victories in their last 14 games. 14-4 since the All-Star break. The San Diego Padres keep winning as well. 4 consecutive wins, I believe 13-3 since the All-Star break. They have taken command of those top 2 spots in the National League wild card, and the Braves have lost 4 in a row at a bad time. They fall to that 3rd and final spot.
It's crazy, and you're right. It's just the pressure that you're putting on from 2 teams we expected to be decent teams coming into the season, the Padres and the Diamondbacks playing great baseball. Now, if you extend it down, the Braves should have been just walking into that first overall wild card seed, but they've been so injured, so damaged right now at this point, and they just can't hit. They're falling by the wayside. The Mets, Cardinals, and the Giants, but here's where the problem comes in once again, because, yes, we're going to say 3 teams have to make the wild card, but I'm telling you right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates now have lost 3 straight baseball games. They sit 4 games back of that wild card. I'm telling you right now, just keep an eye on it, because if you do have a ticket in your pocket for Skeens, he's a wonderful pitcher. But we were talking just 2 weeks ago, like, hey, look at the Pirates. They're right a half game out of the wild card. They can do this here, which was great for those tickets. If the Pirates continue to slip, where they're 6 and 7 games back with 2 weeks to play, you are not going to see Paul Skeens over those final 2 starts just to get innings in. Keep an eye on the Pirates. If you have that Skeens ticket, you better start cheering on the Padres and the Diamondbacks to falter here, so at least they don't run away with those wild card spots, pushing you back further and further and further.
DRS, we're starting to see, though, those levels of separation. As you said, the Buccos now 4 games out of a wild card spot. Even the Cardinals 2 games out. And it does not seem like San Diego or Arizona are slowing down anytime soon. Of course, they're not going to stay this hot for the remainder of the 45 or 50 games left in this MLB regular season. But the Padres 13-3 since the All-Star break. Arizona 14-4 since the All-Star break. As you look around the divisions in the National League, the Phils a 7.5 game lead over Atlanta. The Brew Crew a 6-game lead in the National League Central. The Dodgers actually seeing their lead tighten, only 3 games up. They've won the division 10 of the last 11 years. Hour 3 comes your way next.